And welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast, where we talk faith, culture, and everything in between. And with me in studio is none other than Pastor Muhammad Ali.
Hello.
Hey. And then also back again is none other than Mrs. Catie Sas. Catie, welcome.
Thanks.
All right, we're talking.
I almost said welcome.
Welcome.
That would have
been a little weird, but that's okay.
Yep.
Hey, we appreciate you. We got a question from this week, and it's going to be a two-parter because two mega church pastor people kind of got in some hot water this week. So here we go. This one said, can you weigh in and offer your opinion on the Josh Howerton situation in Dallas? There was an article in the Dallas Morning News, and that references a tweet made. Then an article on Christian Post covering him apologizing. Do you think he did anything wrong? Do you think he should have apologized? How would you handle things if you were in a similar situation? So this is going to be part one of the two-parter. So Josh Howerton is the lead pastor at Lake Point Church. The pastor before him, it was a cool dude, Steve Stroop. And so this is a legacy mega church that's really renowned in the Dallas area. It's East Dallas.
Yeah, it's one of the largest growing churches in the U.S.
And it's awesome. It's a great church. At one point, I was considered to be the teaching pastor there, but they didn't actually interview me. I don't really know what that means, and it's kind of like, oh, wow. Anyway, so at least they saw my resume at one point. Okay, so here's what happened. I'm going to kind of give you the general gist of the joke. And then, Catie, I'd love for you to kind of give your response as a woman. It went something like this. It was like he was talking about marriage and said, ladies, you were thinking about your wedding day. You were thinking about the flowers. You were thinking about the place settings. You were thinking about the dresses. You were thinking about your dress and how everything was going to go. And so, future husbands, if you want to do this right, you stand where you're told to stand, you wear what you're supposed to wear, and you do whatever she tells you to do. You stand where she tells you to stand, you wear what she tells you to wear, and you do what she tells you to do.
Yeah.
And then he kind of goes, everyone's like, yeah, ha, 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 ha. And then he flips it and he goes, but you know what? Men, their whole lives, they've been dreaming about their wedding night. And so he goes, so that means wives or ladies, you need to stand where he tells you to stand, wear what he tells you to wear, and do what he tells you to do. And it was supposed to be funny. And honestly, I think it's kind of funny. It's like the
people were clapping.
Yeah, they thought it was hilarious.
During the service,
they clapped. Everyone loved it. Nobody...
Yeah.
So, but then the backlash claim, because what was clipped was
the second part.
The second part, hey, women, stand where you're supposed to stand, wear what you're supposed to wear, do what he tells you to do.
Yep.
So, Catie, I wanted to hear from you just your initial reaction to that, just the in passing reaction. And then, Mo, I'd love to hear from you as well. So, Catie, what do you think when you first hear that? Stand where you're supposed to stand, wear what you're supposed to wear, do what he tells you to do.
Only the second part? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would be highly offended.
Yeah. Now, in context, how about that?
In context, no.
Yeah.
I would think, it was that's funny.
Yeah. Right. That is funny.
Yeah.
And because he's not being a draconian, he's not encouraging men to abuse
because he
their
has
wives.
two daughters. I just Googled him. I did a quick Google search. And he has two daughters.
Right.
And I don't think that he would want his daughters to marry a man that would act
abusive,
that way.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. And so I think if you look at it as he's hopefully, assumingly, he's a loving father, he's a loving husband, and he made a joke that maybe it was a poor joke. I don't think it was a very good joke to make on a stage. As a pastor, it's kind of consider your role, consider the platform you have.
Do you think I would make a joke like that?
No.
Really? All right, thanks.
Which is funny because you would think Plek would make a joke like that.
Yeah, I would totally make a joke like that. Yeah.
But even Plek doesn't make a joke
like
that.
Yeah, if even I don't make a joke like that, maybe that's a little
far.
Well, I like to think think of you a little higher.
Thank you.
Than making
man,
a joke
I don't even think about myself that highly. I was
I would
probably be tempted. I would be like, that was funny.
Yeah.
I might have to say that.
Yeah, I thought it was funny too. When you told me the whole joke in context, I was like, oh, that is pretty funny. Because, that's It's like, yeah, men do dream about their wedding night.
Right.
Like, that's like what they look forward to. Ryan couldn't care less about the wedding day. Like, he let me do whatever I wanted. He was like, oh, you want everything pink? Don't care.
Yeah.
Literally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then I just care about the hotel room that night. And so it's like, he was just, yeah. So it's like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think because he's a pastor and it was probably just a bit awkward of a joke for him to make. I think it was funny.
Yeah.
But I could see why other people would think like, oh, that's...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What do you think, Mo? What would you...
I think, so one, is it a dirty joke? No. It's a joke about sex,
Right.
which I think is totally valid.
In the context of marriage.
In the context of marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it a joke to make during a sermon? I would say absolutely not. If it's outside of a sermon, absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But even within the joke itself, even if you think it's okay to make during a sermon, I think there's a lot of assumptions that go into the joke. One, I don't like, because this is where I'm going to start criticizing. One, I don't like that he said, this is, right before he told it, this is something that a mentor told me years ago, and let me give you all some advice. So the second that you say it's advice,
Now it's...
I get it.
weird.
You're supposed to like extrapolate the truth within the joke.
Yeah.
But then there is some advice within that.
Right.
So I think
seems weird.
It just seems weird. So I think the assumptions that go into the joke are, one, only the lady cares about the wedding day, which honestly for Lauren and I, it was funny because like we got engaged and we're about to get married, and she started to flip out about all the planning and all this. And I don't know if I was supposed to do it, but I almost like threatened her. I was like, if you start to freak out, we're going to go elope. And so from that moment onward, she was just like, all right, like I'm gonna chill out. And we enjoyed the process, and it was mutual. We did it together. So I think the assumption that just the woman cares about the wedding day, it's an assumption, it's stereotypical. And
Right.
just the man cares about the sex afterward. That's also an assumption that's
Right.
stereotypical, that's
Right.
incorrect or should be incorrect. And then third one, the assumption is both of y'all, for that joke to work, are virgins.
Right.
How does a virgin man know what he wants on his wedding night?
Right. Oh, that's
So
funny.
there are a lot of,
If you start to dig into the joke...
love how you literally broke every single part of that down.
Yeah.
Like, that was...
Yeah,
that was
and I think because when I heard that joke, I got the general... I didn't go...
Yeah.
I just took, okay, funny, haha, move on.
But jokes are stereotypical.
Right.
Like, that's
They
what
are.
makes them
In fact,
funny.
if you're not
is
stereotypical, then it's not funny at
It's
all.
not
Like,
funny
if
at
a
all, right.
joke is neutral and understanding, then
Yeah.
it's not a joke.
Right. And if you put like 50 disclaimers on it,
Right.
then it doesn't.
Right.
It's not funny.
Yeah.
But if that was like John Christ with a stand up joke, funny. Kill it.
'Cause he's a
absolutely.
comedian.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do think. Okay, that's good. That was a good perspective. So yeah, I think that. So then the apology. I don't know if you saw the apology. So the apology, and I don't want to say he plagiarized because I don't know, but it was almost 100% exact with another mega church's pastor's apology. He said like, "Hey, I said a thing, and then I said, careless words will be judged or whatever, or a proverb," he said. And then he go the next part, it was exactly the same. Next part was exactly the same. And I get it. You want to make sure you just screwed up,
Yeah.
and you want to go with an apology that works. So why not craft one from someone that already did it?
Do you think he thinks he screwed up? Like, do you think he is taking full responsibility for it, or that he needs to take responsibility?
I wish
for
I knew.
it?
This is, when you're in this is as all of us right now are in a public space, right? With all of our tens of listeners out there, we have a responsibility to these tens to kind of to choose our words carefully.
But I can say whatever I want,
Right.
and you can't,
Right. That's true.
and.
That is true.
So it's like, and you've talked to me about this before because I get irritated with you when you kind of play neutral on things. And I'm like, just freaking say what you think.
Yeah.
Like, say your opinion.
Right.
I know outside of this, I know what your opinion is.
Right.
So just say it on this public platform.
Right.
But you won't
Right.
because you are a pastor and you are shepherding a flock of a ton of different people.
That's
and
true.
And so it's like, there are things you can't be super... What is the word? Polarized? Like
Polarizing. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Like
take
if I
a
gave
strong
my
stance
opinion
on
about
something.
homeschool,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden everyone's like, it goes
Because
from me to that church.
Right. Yeah. If it's not biblical, like if it's not a theological issue, then like it doesn't mean anything for you to take a stand. So, but it's like I can because I'm not in a pastoral role. I'm not even in a ministry leadership role. Like I'm just like.
And have I think I have said the wrong thing. My platform is tens versus millions, and so therefore the backlash is way huger.
Yeah.
So I do think
huger.
I got some good vocab right here. So I do think the apology, again, I don't know the context. Did his elders say, hey, you need to apologize and it better be awesome? So he went and crafted one from somebody, or it was like, gosh, that came off wrong. That's not the look that Lake Point wants.
It just sucks because now he has to apologize about his apology.
Right.
Like
now it's like, okay.
Because he stole some stuff.
Yeah, it was weird. It was just weird across the board.
But I mean, if it was a good apology, then
I know, I get it. But the problem is when you can kind of compare apologies across the board.
Yeah.
I think people just, I mean, if it's me, I'm like, we're going to move on. And
yeah, he dug himself in a hole.
And if you're that mad about it, then leave the church.
Yeah. Right. At first, what he said was insensitive at best, but now you straight up lied or you're stealing.
Right.
So now it's like, ooh, there's no way around. Like, you can't plagiarize, bro.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, if you steal something you get a part of your sermon from, what's his name? Spurgeon, and then you get a part of your sermon from Tim Keller and a part of your sermon from Chuck Swindoll or a part of your I don't know. I think you're gonna over time it all just meshes into one thing. All the stuff you learn,
Sure.
But I get it. It's hard to wrap your head around.
But word for word.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That is right.
Written.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't know Josh personally, but I've heard him preach a bunch and love him.
He's great.
Like
I just heard about this guy from this thing, and I actually went and listened to a sermon.
Oh.
Phenomenal. He was great.
He is phenomenal. Like one of the best communicators ever. In fact, I probably should steal stuff from him.
There you go.
But like he
wouldn't care.
No, he wouldn't. But he's great. I honestly, that kind of made me think, I probably should listen to more Josh. Because I heard him in person at Exponential last year, and I was like tears, crying, just powerful. And I was like, that guy can bring it. And so I don't want to tear him down. But the problem with doing things publicly is that you kind of set yourself up for people to talk about you publicly. And so here he is. And
it's not like he didn't know. I feel like when you're about to go on stage and say that, that this might not end well for you, bro.
Right.
You know?
It's not like there wasn't the feeling of like, maybe this won't land right.
If you watch the video,
I wonder if he went to preaching practice.
As soon as you did the joke, he went back and he had this face up like this and he goes, okay, Acts 1. So he knew, like, it's risky, bro.
Yeah.
You took the risk.
Like
he did. He took the risk.
I think if you wrote a joke like that down, I think you would know.
Yeah.
Like,
usually my jokes that come off that are like, the one I said that like, getting hard-hearted. That was total.
Oh my gosh.
That one wasn't even on purpose.
No, that was not. After I said it, I go, oh, crud. And I just went and owned it. I was like, no. I was like,
yeah. No, I remember sitting there like, did he just say that?
Yeah. And I just was like, keep moving.
And then I was like, does he realize that that's what it
Yeah. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I go, crud. And I was like, I'm just saying.
Because it was the Play-Doh one, right?
Yeah. Oh, good.
It was the Play-Doh, like.
Where the Play-Doh got hard, and I talked about pornography.
And then like they get soft and they get hard.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see that. After it came out of my mouth, and I looked at people looking back at me, and I realized what happened, and I just go, I'm just saying, and I just pushed on.
I thought it was hysterical. I was like, okay.
Oh, so yeah, I've been there. So oh man.
This is the difference between first degree and second degree murder. Premeditated or not,
Right. So yeah, I don't know. Would I have done that joke to begin with? Probably not, just because I probably have some Catie Sas that would probably warn me, don't say that. And you're gonna come off. Thankfully in the past I've had women in preaching practice at some point go, you probably shouldn't say that. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Because I in preaching practice, kind of where I just let it go and just whatever comes out of my mouth comes out of my mouth, and it's kind of fun. And then I'm like, yeah, that would come off really bad. And I'm sure Josh practices or whatever he does, but maybe I don't know if he was in a yes culture. I don't think so at all, because I think he's super humble. But maybe no one said anything because they just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
are we gonna? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I was just curious. Are we gonna talk about the Mark?
Yeah,
thing?
we're gonna move on to that one. But the question I want to answer: Do I think he did anything wrong? Wrong is such a. Is there anything neutral? Probably not. I don't. That's a hard one. Did he do
wrong
anything
is
wrong?
a big label.
Yeah.
It's a big label to throw on.
Yeah, I don't know if that's wrong.
I think it's preference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a discernment issue.
100%.
Like he probably.
It's preaching style too. He's the type of preacher where for him, that's the way that he preaches probably. And for some other guys, they separate their preaching from their joking altogether.
Yeah.
And there's almost never anything funny in their sermons. And for them, that probably wouldn't be in the context of their teaching.
Right. And I obviously am probably of the former, where I love jokes in the sermon.
Right.
And so, because that's just my style. And so I didn't have a problem with that. Anyway, I hate to criticize him, because man, when you're preaching every week and you're trying to do the best you can, I don't think he's sitting there. I'm gonna make women feel objectified, but he did plan it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard.
But that's also our culture, is we take a 2-3 second
clip
bit of something and then we judge the whole entire thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's if people listen to the whole sermon, if they look at who he is as a person, it's I'm sitting here looking at Google images of him and his family, and I'm like, I just think that listening to the full context of the sermon and not just taking out this 5-second part of it.
Yeah.
If you were incomplete.
Yeah. If you were at Lake Point Church, you would have thought it was funny. You're probably like, oh, that's just Josh.
Yeah.
But if you're not, and you're in social media world, you're like, what is wrong? That's why we hate Christians. They're just blah, 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 blah. And now you're like, you may have put the
unnecessary offense. Yeah.
There you go. An unnecessary offense. There's definitely things to be offensive about.
Yep.
If we want to talk, and he has done a great job.
I probably would have been offended that he didn't include women in being excited about the wedding. I probably would have been like, what the heck, dude? I was excited about too.
Okay. Yeah, right.
It's not just for him.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know where I was going to go beyond that. Yeah. Do you think so? Should he apologize? I think the apology
was political.
It was wise.
Yeah, it was wise.
I don't think he should have apologized at all.
Yeah.
I think he just owned it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was for my.
But I'm also not a pastor.
Yeah, I think he should have said, "Hey, that was for my church," and in context, I said this, and if you could have taken it wrong, not the way Mo took it wrong, but if you analyze this and dug deep and said I was stereotypical, that's why jokes are funny.
That's why it's a joke.
Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in my style of preaching is jokes, and I would have probably written a blog or had a separate thing, not in a Sunday sermon, to apologize for it.
Yep.
But maybe he felt he had to do it in the same venue that he made the joke. So that might, and again, I don't know he probably submitted to his elders on this. I'm sure the leadership of that church said, Josh, here's the direction we want you to go. And he's like, got it. And they may have said, hey, here's a clip from Somebody Forever Go. Do something like this. And he's like, how much time do I want to spend on this? Minimal.
Well, and it's
I'm going to knock it out.
He wanted to play it safe.
Yeah.
And playing it safe is apologizing. But
Gosh, the one question, how would I handle if I were in a similar situation? Yeah, if I made a joke like that, which again, very possible. For example, someone took a clip of my Play-Doh thing, posted on the internet, and said, this is just inappropriate. I would have been like, yeah.
Then listen to the whole sermon.
Yeah, I was like, listen to the whole sermon, but that just slipped. Sorry. But if I had a planned one, that didn't go like I intended. I'm sorry if you were offended, but it was meant to be funny. Right. And if you're offended by that, gosh, my bad. But people at my church know my heart, and they know me, and I love them. They love me. And that was an in-house thing that you got to you got to be an outsider looking in at a joke that I made. And we do that because we want the world to see how authentic I am with my people, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And if you are personally offended by that, I will meet with you personally or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he'd have an autograph session. I don't know.
There you go.
Okay. So I think that's how it happened. Now let's go on to the other one. Mark Driscoll. Now, are you familiar with what happened?
The conference.
Yeah,
the men's conference.
I think was it Strong Men Conference?
Something
like
I
that.
don't know.
In what was it? St. Louis?
Oh, I don't know where it was.
Yeah. Anyway, it was somewhere, not here. Mark Lindell, I think, was the pastor that hosted, and they had a male stripper. I think a Vegas male stripper come on.
Wait, he was an ex-male stripper. Okay. Basically, I saw the video on Instagram.
Yep.
And I was going through all the comments. That's one of my favorite things to do now is like I watch controversial videos on Instagram and I just read all the comments of everyone arguing.
Yeah.
Nice.
So everyone was saying like he took his shirt off.
It was weird.
It was a bit weird for a men's conference. It was supposed to display like strength or something because he took his
ripped.
shirt off. And I mean, I guess he was like really buff or something. Yeah. And he's like climbing up this pole.
Right.
And then he like put his sword down his throat.
He was swallowing swords, yeah.
Like he was doing a bunch of like crazy things.
Yep.
But he wasn't like, it's not like he was grinding against the pole.
No, he wasn't doing anything
He
like
wasn't like, it
sexy
wasn't
dancing.
like,
Yeah.
sensual, but it was like a bit interesting.
Yeah.
But he was a male stripper in Vegas. before.
Right. So was he now a Christian?
Yeah, he's now a Christian.
So he kind of was a person, hey, it's the past I came from. I want to use my God-given gifts to glorify God. Hey, they asked me to do something kind of fun. I know. I'll rip my shirt off. That's strong. Swallow a sword. That's cool.
Yep.
And show my strength by climbing up a pole.
Yeah.
That's right.
And, okay, so debatable. I watched it, and I was like, listen,
it's a bit much.
Listen, there's not much I'm not okay with, and I felt weird by it. Like I'm about to go to the edge of the limit on that kind of stuff because I'm like, yeah, anything feats of strength, that's kind of cool. But that was just,
I feel like maybe if he'd kept his shirt on.
yeah, ripping like there was no point to the shirt thing.
Like it's not like you're at like Chippendales or something.
Right, and especially nowadays with it, like okay, at our church, I can name off at least 3 same-sex attracted men, and that are known and I don't want to say same people that struggle with same-sex attraction might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
We're like that would be really weird.
It would be maybe difficult. Like if they're okay. So on the flip side, you throw a chick up there, she's like wearing a bra or something,
Yeah.
and is up on top of the pole and swallowing
like,
a sword.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
she's supposed to be displaying strength,
Right, but
if
I'm looking
men
at
are
her
gonna
body.
see,
That's right.
yeah, it's like
So now would somebody maybe lust after a guy lifting weights or something? Maybe. I don't know. You know, it wasn't a church. Not that I'm of the opinion, which you're free to disagree on this. Like you can do whatever you want to kind of communicate the gospel, but that was just to me a little much.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my preference.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go there.
so
Okay.
Driscoll.
So Driscoll comes on the next day, and what happened?
He comes on and says he like senses a Jezebel spirit in the room, and he's like, this is a rebuke.
No, he said this isn't a rebuke, which I thought was it. He was like, I'm not rebuking anybody. And then
He said this is just an observation.
Yeah.
I'm just
Which I
making
thought
an
was
observation.
this is an observation, but it kind of turned into a rebuke.
And something about like he felt like it was, I don't know, something about a stripper and all this stuff. And then you hear the guy that put the sermon or put the retreat on
Yeah, it was a conference.
yell from the back, "You're out of line, Mark."
Right.
And so Mark, he goes, "Okay, I'll receive that." And then he walked off the stage.
Walked off stage. Yeah, he said that the Jezebel spirit is alive and well. We just saw it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, we saw a platform, an altar, a pole, he goes, an Asherah pole, and then a man putting a sword down. And then as soon as he starts, he goes, well, one day there's going to come one with a sword coming out of his mouth. He's about to go off, dude, on Jesus. And then the dude kicked him off stage.
Yeah.
So first of all, I got to admit, that was the fact that he can come up with those references that quick.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
very impressive to
Well, I
me.
think
Regardless of whatever, I was like, dude, you came up with that on the spot.
I thought it was the day before, right? So the thing
It
happened.
was the day of.
Was it? No, I
Day
thought it
of.
was the day before because he was praying for them all night, and he was praying for him, and then he came on just really concerned because I thought day 1 was the stripper guy, and day 2 was Mark.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's how that came because he said he was. I've been praying. I've been hoarse praying for you.
Yeah.
Now it could have been. I don't want to.
Okay.
I might misspeak. I don't,
Yeah.
Because I
only saw a 10-second clip, so
Yeah,
I
I thought he meant was I've been praying for you all night about this because I've been so disturbed, and he kind of went through the Jezebel spirit thing. Now, I don't know. When I appreciate Mark because it was weird, but
So a couple things.
Yeah.
Because after that, the dude came on stage.
Yes.
And then he said, hey, this is not a way to confront a brother. First, the
Matthew
Bible
18.
says go to him in person.
Yeah.
And then this is why it made me think it was the same day. He said, after that, Mark and I were somewhere for 30 minutes. And nowhere during those 30 minutes did he come up to me.
right.
But then after all of that, they both got up on stage at the end, whether it was that day or the next day, and like hashed it out.
Apologize to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Oh.
Mark apologized.
Mark
or something.
apologized. Another apology.
Boom. Okay. I appreciate that. Okay. So I think that, man,
That's weird.
it is weird.
I like what Mark said.
Well, yeah.
If I saw that dude doing what he was doing, taking his shirt off and swallowing swords, I would have left, dude. I'd be like, this is ridiculous, bro.
This makes me think of the
But
circus.
wouldn't you
Yeah.
leave as opposed to, I don't know. This is a hard one because do you,
I would have left.
well, no. But
okay.
would you say something or would you leave? I mean, so like,
If I'm an attender, I'm just leaving. But
Right,
in
right.
Mark's
If you're
case,
Mark-
that's the weird part
he
is that
should have
dude was
said
actually
it in
right.
behind the scenes.
He should have told that dude first.
yeah.
instead of like going up on stage.
But
and
Yeah.
wasn't
saying
it a public thing? So you need a public rebuke?
I could see that too.
Yeah. But okay.
But if you're going to do it, double down. Don't
Right.
apologize after.
Well, and I read in a comment that like he probably felt like because his name was tied to it, that he needed to publicly make it known how he felt about it.
yeah, but you could do that
Yeah.
by just leaving, I think.
Yeah, you can do that in a multitude of ways.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm out. And
Yeah.
and then, it could have been like, hey, and then after, like, you leave, and they said, listen, I can't, like, again, he's hanging out with Mark Lindell. I think, is that,
I don't know if that's
anyway,
yeah.
Pastor Lindell. He's hanging out with him, John Lindell.
Yeah.
He's hanging out with him backstage. He's not saying anything. And then he goes out there and says that. It is kind of weird.
That's weird.
That is weird.
You could say, hey, I didn't agree with that. And right now, as I'm about to go up, you better know I'm about to address it.
Right.
And then right there and then, he'd be like, you're not going up then.
Yeah. And then, or be like, hey, man, I can't go up and preach.
Yeah.
That thing I just saw,
Yeah.
whether it was last night or today or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't go there. Yeah. So I feel like that part was, and Mark kind of has a history of just kind of, going
I
off.
just went down a rabbit hole of watching his Instagram videos,
Yeah.
and like he doesn't hold back.
He's a wild man.
He's a beast.
Like if he is not the guy that is like how you say you can't just say anything
Right.
you want.
He says
like
it.
he says whatever he wants.
Right. And it
Like
cost
he's
him.
calling
Gets him
he's
in
calling
trouble.
people
Right,
sluts. He's calling people
Yeah.
like idiots. He's just like
He also said there's, a pile of dead bodies behind the bus of Mars Hill. And I think that kind of, like when I heard that, I remember him saying that the
Yeah.
original time he said it, and I go,
Ooh.
what?
so,
The
okay,
church.
so if you get in the way of the Mars Hill bus, you either get on or you get run
Yeah,
over.
yeah, that's what he's.
And I understand what he's saying. Like, hey, we're going
But,
somewhere, and if you're going to resist it, then get out of the way, or we're
what's
going to run you over.
Mars Hill?
But that just is Mars Hill. It was his church back in the day, Mars Hill Church in Seattle, and now he pastors a church in Arizona because he got fired from that church because of abusive leadership. But yeah,
It
so
was like one of the hugest mega churches.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
so sad because I loved Mark. probably
Abusive
for-
leadership, like he was the abusive leader.
And it was sad because he would say stuff like that, right? And he'd be unapologetic about it until he was.
Well, it's cool to be unapologetic unless you're being
A
an
jerk.
actual like a-hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was. And I think he couldn't own that. And I think, this is where if you can't own your own sin, I think this is where Paul David Tripp was like meeting with him and he goes, he will not repent. And it was so big and so sad because we all loved the influence that Mark Driscoll had and calling men to be men.
Man,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a big
that's
part.
his big thing.
I mean, like we need manly men, and I don't even mind if, like, I think he is reaching a section of men that I don't think I could ever reach. That's not my deal.
But like, is he leading them to the heart of Jesus?
Yeah,
Or
that's where it
is
gets
he-
confusing because I don't know. This is
That's
where
the question. He just did a commentary on like his most like whatever controversial video, like the one that blew up the most.
Yeah,
where
the screaming one.
where he's just screaming and he goes, "How dare you!"
Yeah.
to a bunch of dudes in the audience, of basically like, as I'm talking to this, to y'all right now, you're whispering in her ear, don't say anything. Don't look at me. We'll talk about this in the car. And then he goes off, how dare you? Yeah. And then he gives the background as he's commenting on that.
How does he know that that's what they're...
I don't know. But basically, that's his like most controversial thing.
Right.
And then he gives a commentary on it, and he like starts like breaking down and weeping because he's talking about that was in the context of the time when he just found out that his wife, he never knew this about her. She was like sexually abused before they got married. And a bunch of ladies in between the 7 services that they had, which tells you how big of a church it was, came up to him between the services telling him that they have been sexually abused. So he had a lot of like anger. And to me, I would say that's righteous anger.
Okay. But he does it 7 times.
Yeah.
And every single service, he has the same reaction. And listen, as one who preaches like that, I understand you can do that.
Yeah.
But I think Mike Cosper, not that I'm a fan of him at all, from the Christianity Today, because I thought he was it was more of a hit piece than it was the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill.
Yeah.
I thought it was more of a hit piece than it was a documentary or whatever. He kind of called out, he kind of showed like each clip, it was exactly the same. He's looking right at the camera. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a big deal. There's a part of it that felt like he knew because he's a genius.
But what was he saying in the sermon that was causing women to come and tell them?
Like he was on their side. He's like, he's talking, how dare you talk to a woman? How dare you hit a woman? How dare, like he was, it was really awesome. I mean, the thing he said, I think was great.
Yeah, I think it was great.
Cosper, who is a Christianity Today journalist, said it was more staged. And I'm like, maybe, but he's making the point.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think in fact, what's kind of interesting, not that I'm anything spectacular, but I was on the video with Driscoll they did like a Stepping Up was like a men's video, and they had that clip on that video, and then me telling my story on that video. So it's like, this is like my claim to fame. It was like Mark Driscoll, Matt Chandler, me. I'm like nobody knows who I am, but I'm somehow in the same video. It was like such a cool thing. Anyway, so but he's like yelling at the people on that, and I think the men need to hear that. Like, you are supposed to provide for your wife, protect your wife, pursue your wife, and he's kind of leaning in, and that's what he always did. He would have he would kind of call all the men for a verbal tongue lashing that they would voluntarily come to be better men.
Right.
And I think now, I'm not saying all men love this, but I think when I call out men here to be men, I think men like, yeah, bring it, let's go.
Yep.
And I think that's a powerful thing. Don't be gay in a sense of not just homosexual, but just like, don't be effeminate in your leadership. Be a man. Like, go do it. Women want to follow you. They want to help you succeed in your mission. So I think that's where he did a good job of calling that out. Yeah, he's aggressive.
He's very aggressive. Yeah. And
he's an alpha male that people want to follow.
Well, and what I'm reading right now is I'm reading Gentle and Lowly. And so it's kind of like he doesn't really represent a gentle and lowly spirit. And so I'm kind of like, as you're being this very aggressive, intense, passionate, like it's like there are a lot of good things going on here, but it's like very aggressive.
So was there a time, you have to ask, was Jesus ever aggressive?
100%.
When he was angry and flipping over tables.
Okay.
Yes.
And then also when he's like, woe to you, Corazon, and woe to you, Bethsaida.
Yep.
The miracles were performed in you that were performed in Sodom and Gomorrah. They were repented in dust and ashes, but you are going to like, I think that's where.
Because I'm not saying I like or dislike Mark Driscoll. I'm just trying to figure out what do I think?
Yeah. Listen, he's a puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, there's some things I just love about Mark Driscoll. And then, like, again, there's going to be a bunch of dead bodies behind the bus.
Yeah. Like, some of the things he says is a bit, it's like, oh, wow.
I mean, like, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the video I was telling you about the throuple. Like what he does is he'll play a video on his Instagram, like he'll make a reel.
It was like a threesome family.
It's called a throuple. It's a dude and 2 chicks, and they're all 3 married.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Like, what woman in her right mind would sign up for this? But like, what man wouldn't want that?
Right.
So
Depends.
Like, listen,
well,
twice the.
I mean, I think I see it as like, because they all 3 sleep together.
Right. Of course.
And so, they're on there. He's showing this video of where they're talking about how they navigate the marriage and how it's like, the trend where it's like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. So of course I'd blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. So of course have y'all seen that trend? And
The
it's
trad
like,
wife?
Trad wife?
Oh yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
wife?
Yeah.
Trad wife's
wife.
traditional wives.
Yeah. It's like blown up.
Oh yeah. Or it's like, there's someone else. It's like, I'm a dad. Of course I da-da-da-da-da. And they're going through the list of
Like
of course
dad chores or like take care of the kids or
like just something.
coach the team or whatever.
And then, so like this throuple is doing that. They're like, we're a throuple. Of course we all sleep in the same bed together. We're a throuple. Of course we get into arguments like every other couple. We're a throuple. Of course we like have to schedule out when we're having sex with who. We're a throuple. Of course we have to. And so like he's playing this video and at the end of it, I tried to find it before we started, but it's like kind of far back. And oh my gosh. So it ends, and that's when he has his like few sentences of like what he's talking about. And he says, we're a throuple. Of course we're a bunch of dumb sluts. And I was like,
Mark Driscoll says that.
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah. And so you're like,
well, I was like,
Yeah.
aren't you a pastor?
right. Because, and here's where that scripturally, that's don't judge those outside the church. Right. Now, I think he could, like now it makes it super hard for them to be reached. Now, granted,
Yeah.
at the same time,
like if we're called
loss
to
is
win
Easter eggs.
over
Right.
the
Yeah.
loss, like that's only going to push them away.
Right.
And
Yeah.
not that you should never say anything that might offend someone.
I think you'd
that's
say like
lost,
that
but,
is sin.
That's
Repent.
That's like that was a bit rude.
Yeah.
And
That
I
was
think
not loving.
I think if he was here, he would say, well, God like uses derogatory terms in the Old Testament that are as bad or worse than that. And my rebuttal to that would be he does that through prophets.
And he does it to those who should know better.
Yep.
So he's
He does it
calling
to
out
Israel.
Israel.
Yep.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think that's the
Well, it's
problem.
like in Proverbs, like he says, people are fools. People are
Right, and
equals.
horse. Like
yeah.
Ezekiel
Yeah.
is pretty nasty. Like
It's very nasty. Yeah.
It's like Aholiab and her sister. I mean, it's straight up pornographic with
Yeah.
bestiality. It's wild. And so you're like,
Ooh.
so when God calls that out, he's calling it out amongst those who should know better.
And it's God.
And it's God,
calling
directly
out.
calling it out.
Yep.
And so I feel like that's where I'm like, man,
That's tough.
yeah, I like I said, do I love Mark? Do I want the best for Mark? Do I think Mark is born again? 100%. Do I think he loves his people passionately? I think he really does.
Yeah.
I just think that he goes off the rails, and it's a pastor like that. It's like, it's like in Top Gun when you have Maverick as one of your fighters. You can't really trust him because you don't know where he's going to go, and that makes it hard to follow. Like that's if you're going to be Top Gun. Like, but do you want that guy with you in a fight? Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he's on your team and he's fighting for it. But man, it's hard to trust that leadership.
Like you can't deny the passion that he has for living out the Bible and living out
Sure.
his faith.
Yeah. Phew. All right. Any other thoughts on our current event moment of the week of the Howerton Driscoll thoughts?
Lots of apologies.
Lots of apologies. Yeah, okay, real quick on that. He apologized.
Do we know what he said? Like what his apology was?
Yeah.
He I don't know. As soon as I saw that he went up there to apologize, I turned off the video. I got so pissed. Because I was like, bro, you had guys walk out of that conference as soon as he kicked you off stage.
Right.
And so those are all the dudes that were like, dude, that's my man. You spoke up. I was thinking the same thing. And now all those dudes felt like they got smacked in the middle. Like, that's messed up, dude.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something like that, you better stand up for it. Or don't do it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just don't do it. Yeah.
Or just don't
or
do
just
it.
walk out
Yeah.
and then be like, be quiet about it and move on. And then
Yeah.
you can say, hey, listen, John, here's my personal letter to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the way that I think I agree with him. I think everyone sort of agree with him, but the way he handled it.
Nah, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts from you, Catie?
Being a pastor sounds like it's a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching Pastor Plek's podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Let people know that we're here talking about stuff that matters to you as we talk faith, culture, and everything in between. Just remember, text us in and you can ask any questions, 737-231-0605 from our house to yours. Have an awesome week of worship.